What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Kamen Riders. We are a Kamen Rider review podcast, and today on the show we're going to talk about Kamen Rider Zeztz, episode number 29. I'm your host, Josh Meek, the Uber Geek, and this normally would be where I say that I'm joined by my good friend Toby Tobes, but unfortunately this week I am traveling and we didn't have a time to get lined up and record together. So instead this week, we're going to do kind of a little splitsy episode. I'm going to talk to you for a little bit, Toby's going to talk to you for a little bit, and we mash it all together to make a full episode. Next week, we will be back to normal. We will be recording at the same time, actually speaking to each other, so it will be a much more normal episode. If this is your first episode of the Kamen Riders, I apologize. It's not normally like this. Normally, we are having a conversation, and it is a lot more fun. So please come back next week. But we still wanted to get something out to you guys. We had a bunch of stuff to talk about. We wanted to talk about the episode this week, so it was still worth it to us to get something out onto the podcast feed. And Toby will talk about it later on, but there's some fun stuff coming to the Patreon as well that we wanted to let you all know about. So I guess without further ado, we'll jump into episode discussion. So I've got some thoughts that I wanted to relay and to talk through. I just finished watching the episode, so actually we're coming at this a little bit more fresh than we normally do for our recording. Usually I watch the show and then we record kind of the next day, but here it's literally like minutes after I just watched the show. So I've got a lot of ideas kind of swimming in my head still. So you and me are going to work that through together as we work down through my notes from watching the episode, which is pretty fun. And like I said, Toby's going to give his thoughts on the episode here coming up next. But this episode's super fun, I think, because we right off the bat get the awesome reveal that the person walking into the command closet dressed in the agent suit is not Baku, but actually is Minami, his sister, which is really, really fun. She looks awesome in the suit, both very cool and like kind of awkward, which is great. Like the boots are kind of too big for her. She clearly like isn't 100% cut out for it, but like she's trying and it looks really cool. And then we get to see Nem, and the only thing I could think about with her outfit, she's like super old-timey, like old lady style, because she's playing the mom in this stream. She reminded me of like old school Aunt May with Spider-Man. Like back in the day before they like, sexed up Aunt May and made her all hot. She looked like the old school version where she was still like a frail old woman. Just with the white around her collar and everything, it was a spot on Aunt May image. Our mission this week, of course, is Save the Cat. And Toby's got some cool information about the title Save the Cat, so I won't spoil any of that for when he talks. But this is it's an interesting episode because the mission itself is kind of mundane, which is really fun. And we get to explore at the beginning of this episode Baku having this like role of I'm not the main character. I'm just this weird secondary guy who doesn't really matter. He calls himself useless at one point, which is fun. Obviously, the episode gets a lot more serious as we go on, and what actually is happening here gets revealed. But I do really appreciate the just complete down-to-earth mission that we have with this kind of reversal of roles. Also, I wanted to point out, again, because this is very fresh in me having just watched it, we've had this new theme playback now for a few episodes, and boy, it has really, really grown on me. I know in earlier episodes I was like a little down on it, like I didn't think I liked it as much as the first theme. I thought it was still good, but like, I didn't think it was quite as good. I thought it maybe had a bit too much English in it. And now that I've heard it a few times in the show, and especially the fact that I've watched it with the visuals now a few times, I do really, really like it. I think it is really, really awesome for the show. I think it's a really great song, and the visuals that they recorded to go with it, I think are top-notch, far and away better than the first opening of the show. Everything about it is great. All the symbolism, kind of all the cool camera shots they do. Baku falling through the bed is really great. All of the Nem dancing and the dress changing stuff is really awesome. Number 3 with his tongue out like a madman is a great scene. They do a really great job of showing you some very cool stuff, giving you the concept of like, hey, this is all this is all coming from dreams. This is all weird and esoteric. It sets the vibe really, really well, I think, for the show. And I really like what they've done kind of with this second half theme. One thing I don't like is how awful these puns are in this show, however, because we get the pun for the kind of opening title card here is no meowder what it takes. That is painful. That is painful, folks. But I do, however, continue to like Sieg. I think that Kamen Rider Dawn is absolutely fantastic. And I particularly love, he has captured Nox, of course, in this episode. And I particularly love that he calls him Nox-chan, which is great. It's such a perfect little Sieg thing to diminish Nox that he has captured and make him seem like a little girl. So that's great. Sieg is awesome. I like all of his mannerisms and kind of everything that he does in the show so far. I noticed that on the cat poster, the missing poster for the cat in the show, that the cat went missing on September 6th, it says, which of course is interesting because our timeline is no longer in line with the real life, the current day time, because we had this premonition that went on for months, and now we've sort of reset back to the beginning. So I thought that was at least noteworthy, that they're continuing with that concept that the dates now are in the past, because we woke up from the premonition. The cat we're looking for is named Jocko, which I think is a pretty great name for a cat. And in this scene with the girl kind of introducing the idea of the cat, we get to see a moment. I don't know if you noticed it, but Minami corpses. Send for the man. She laughs in a scene when she pushes Baku's arm away before she tells him he's a civilian and to stop getting in the way. She pushes his arm away and she giggles right as they cut. I love catching little things like that in shows. That was a really fun one. And, I'm not bothered by it at all. I think it adds a lot of character to the show, and it makes it feel like I'm in on the joke a little bit, the fact that, like, I caught it. So I really liked it, and I thought it was very funny. Obviously, it's her playing, like, a very different character and personality than she normally is on this show. So clearly, she found that scene to be very funny to do, which I thought was great. I also thought the detective vision that she gets to use was very much Batman Arkham detective vision, more than it ever has been before, as we search for the cat paws, which is pretty great. We also get some good scenes with the lady in this episode. I took a few notes about that. First up, we see the lady give Nox his driver and a capsum from the real world. Like, she's at his body. She puts it on his body. She puts the capsum in, and he gets it in the dream world. He gets the new wolf capsum that way. And that's certainly interesting, we'll say. That is an interesting way to transfer things into the dream world, and it does definitely make you think, like, ooh, have we done this before? Have other people been doing this? Have we seen this without really knowing that it was happening? Certainly opens up a lot of possibilities. Also, the lady is just really menacing, I think, in this episode. We get a scene later with her and Nox once he wakes up, and she threatens him, but without really threatening him. She just says, like, well, you know what'll happen, right? And it's such a creepy motherly thing. It's such a creepy way to say that. And it comes across as, like, really chilling. Like, credit to the actress. I think she does a great job there, and I'm really buying all of her entire vibe. I really, really like it. I think the lady and Sieg are really the front runners on the show right now for just expertise in acting. I think both of them are doing a fantastic job. Sieg is really coming across at this point as kind of full on the Joker. He's just a person who revels in the madness so far. He loves causing pain and harm, and all the while he's doing it, he's giggling and joking and calling people Nox-chan. His whole thing is really terrifying and really Joker-like. And I think that he's pulling that off really well, and I think the writing is pulling it off really well as well. Speaking of calling things Chan, I did really like that Baku, in searching for the cat, was yelling Jacko-chan, and then he was just saying meow. He was just saying the word meow, because I guess that's how you find a cat. I don't know. The poster said that the cat comes when you say its name, so maybe he should just stick to Jacko-chan and leave the meowing to the cats. I'm not sure. The nightmare this week I thought looked a little bit like the cover, or something from the cover of an ICP record. A little bit too insane clown posse for my tastes. We also get another horrible pun of meownifested. This is when we find out that Minami is turning into a cat, which we're really zeroing in on a specific type of fetish this week, apparently. Yeah, that was the most unbelievable cat tail I've ever seen, I think, on a human. And unfortunately, I've seen lots of cat tails on humans in my life, so they didn't really get one that looked too much like a cat. But Baku was certainly worried about the prospect of his sister turning into a cat, so he tries to sleep all day long. We get to see Baku spend an entire day counting sheep, trying to sleep. He makes it up to like millions of sheep, and it takes all day. That's a day well spent. That's a true unemployed man right there. Only Baku could do that. He ain't got no job. He can just lay in bed counting sheep all day, which is great. I had forgotten, I guess, with our cop friends as well, that Nazca still has a job. I forgot that she also didn't quit. So she gets to play, I guess, the real cop here, which is pretty funny. So when they go to rescue Knox, finally, or attempt to rescue Knox, she has to call out illegal entry for Fujimi, because he's just a civilian now. He doesn't get to break into places like she does. And I thought that was a fun dynamic between the two of them. We also got a couple interesting location reveals in this episode that they didn't make a huge deal of, but we get to see Minami's room for a little bit in this episode. She's sleeping at one point, and we get to see what her room looks like. No big revelations there, but I thought it was fun to get to see a little snippet of her room. And we also, because we get to see the 3 doors in this episode, because, spoiler, Minami is the dreamer here, so we get to see her 3 doors, and they are in, assuming, her house. Knox walks up to the house, and it says that it is the Yorozu residence, which of course is the last name of Minami and Baku. So it's either their house that they're currently living in, or it's maybe their parents' house or something like that. Yeah, we had never seen the outside of the house, or really any other room in the house other than Baku's bedroom and then the command closet. So I thought that was pretty cool, and we might, of course, find out more about that next episode. Nem had her cat toys out. She was ready to go. That was a fun little goofy bit of the episode that I liked quite a bit. And I think the reveal finally at the end that Minami is the nightmare, they did a great job of sort of revealing that information to the audience kind of prior to Baku finding it out. Minami seeing the nightmare in her own reflection, I think, was great, and was far enough along that I think most people would have figured it out from that moment, right? Like, oh God, she's the nightmare. I get it. And then you're just kind of begging Baku not to kill her while he's fighting the nightmare. And you just hear these kind of whimpers as he's punching the nightmare. And it starts to settle in on you like, oh God, that's his sister. Like, oh, this is terrible. So I think a really kind of expert piece of writing there to give you just enough info that you figure it out before the show actually fully reveals it. It makes you feel a little clever, and of course makes you beg the main character to do something different. So I think that was really, really well done there. Sieg obviously has a ton of power here. We've seen him alter dreams now multiple times, and now he can alter dreams to the point where he can insert people into nightmares, which is completely insane. So we're getting to the point, I think, with Sieg that we'll have to figure out how you can take someone this powerful down. It's a little bit like Neo in the Matrix and that problem. Eventually you create a character that is just so powerful. How do you ever reasonably fight them? They ran into this, I think, a bit at the end of X-Aid with all kind of the time control powers and stuff, and really had to kind of contrive a way past that. I think if you are a person who can just rewrite dreams at will, seemingly with no repercussions, with no effort involved, I don't know how anyone who exists in that dream world with him ever stands to compete. So I'm interested to see how they write around that problem, because obviously this is a show that has proven that it can write really, really clever solutions to things and can come up with really, really interesting angles. So I believe that they have an idea for how that's going to work, but as we keep kind of ramping up the abilities that Sieg has, I continue to be more and more, I guess, worried about how that's gonna resolve. So I will be anxiously awaiting, I guess, the end of that. And of course, we get the big reveal here at the end that Minami is the nightmare, and then the double reveal that Minami is not even Baku's real family. She's a code operative with a specific mission, I think is basically how Nox explains it. So a couple things here. I like that, again, because Baku finally realizes that it is his sister that is the nightmare. He hesitates, and we get to see the Catastrom Capsum do the sort of freak out implode thing again that we got to see him do last time when he confronted the lady in his premonition. So that was cool. It gets to happen now in the, air quotes, current timeline. And then, of course, this whole thing about the sister is absolutely crazy. Like, top 10 anime betrayals crazy for the sister, because think about this whole series. Like, everything she's been saying is to the tune of, like, you know, we have to take care of each other. We're all we have. We're family. You know, like the whole scene where they were eating dinner just last episode and like, please don't make me eat dinner alone. Obviously, I'm thinking that like her job with Code was protecting Baku and protecting this asset. And probably they'll tell us that along the way, hey, she actually did like fall in love with him and feel like family and she cares for him. But wow, just absolutely insane that this person who the whole series rather has been preaching family and how important they are to each other turns out to not actually be family at all, apparently. So yeah, I'm really, really excited about where that goes from there. This is a crazy cliffhanger, maybe one of the best they've had, I think, in the whole series, even, you know, aside from the whole timelines resetting. This whole thing was a premonition. So very fun. I'm glad that they can still make me shocked by the end of an episode here, even after kind of the crazy stuff that's happened in this series so far. I'm also excited to hear if she has any explanation whatsoever for any of that, right? If she actually has a good reason for doing it that makes me as an audience member buy it too. That'll be interesting to see. I also thought it was cool that Nox actually gives like a straight answer for once. Like, he's been this guy who has been talking in these vague concepts whenever he speaks to Baku for this entire series. And finally, for once, he was like, yeah, don't worry, she's not your real family. She works for Code. Like, the fact that he's laid that stuff out there is so unlike Nox. So, you know, nice that we got him to say something straight for once, finally. However, it's silly of Nox, because I think even without her being family, Baku would still really care about having hurt someone who is innocent, hurt someone who isn't actually a nightmare. Obviously, he wants to protect people, so it doesn't matter if it's his sister or not. He would have wanted to protect her still, because, you know, obviously he's the hero. So yeah, super great episode here. I really, really did enjoy it. And I'm really excited of what it sets up now for next episode. Toby and I will have a lot to talk about as we get to that. Someone, and I noticed in the comments of YouTube, was even talking about the idea that the lady had given Nox the driver from the real world and kind of inserted it into the dream world. And they were even talking about the possibility that maybe Minami had given Baku his driver in the very first episode in the same way. Because, of course, he's in the hospital. The first time he henshins, he wakes up, he has the driver on in real life. And, of course, when he wakes up, who is asleep by his bed? None other than Minami, his sister. So if she was an agent of Code this whole time, if she was watching over, you know, the asset that is Baku, it stands to reason that, yeah, maybe she's the one who gave him that driver and put it on his hospitalized body in the first place. And that is really awesome, kind of subtle foreshadowing, or kind of giving us a hint without us even realizing it, if that's the direction that we go. Very, very cool. The show, even 29 episodes in here, continues to wow me, which is impressive. You know, I was thinking about this series a bit today as I was getting ready to watch this new episode, and thinking like, man, this has been such a really well written show. Like, there's nothing in it so far that has made me think like, man, I wish they wouldn't have done that, or I wish they would have done that differently. Everything has been surprising. Everything has like taken me on a journey that they've wanted to take me on, and everything has been like pretty unpredictable in a really good way. I certainly didn't really see the "it was all a dream" reset back to the beginning stuff happening, and a lot of the, you know, shocking moments and stuff are actually truly shocking, and I'm not predicting them ahead of time, and that is a really fun thing in a show from a series that has been going on for this long, that, you know, I would say at times can be formulaic, right? Like, at its core, it's monster of the week. Like, there's stuff that does happen over and over again. There are tropes that we hit. So the fact that they can take this format and make it kind of so shocking week to week, and they can kind of turn it on its head to such an extent here is great. Yeah, I really, really like this series. And, you know, we'll see how they stick the landing here now as we're in kind of the back half of the series, but it is definitely going to land in probably my top, you know, 3 to 5 Kamen writers, and it only has room to climb from here, kind of depending on how it ends up. So, yeah, super fun stuff. I also wanted to tell you all about the Patreon before I toss it over here to Toby. He's going to talk a bit more about the Patreon as well, so I'll just give it a little pitch. But you can find the Patreon over at patreon.com/thecommentwriters, and over there we put out lots of bonus content. It's $3 a month, and each week we put out at least a couple pieces of bonus content. Most of it is in the form of us watching other tokusatsu shows, things that aren't stuff we're talking about on the main podcast. We watch the show, you watch it along with us in video form. It's a bit like Mystery Science Theater. You get to hear our jokes, you get to hear us talking about the show, discussing it as we go along, and it's a pretty fun format. So right now we are watching through Dawn Brothers, and we have just started Super Space Sheriff Gavan Infinity, which I am loving so far. So great stuff. If you want to hear our thoughts on anything kind of not mainline Kamen Rider, if you want to hear our thoughts on Sentai or Gavan, the Patreon is certainly the place to find that. Patreon.com/thecommentwriters. So with that, I will toss it over to Toby. He's got a bunch of stuff to tell you. He's going to talk through the episode a little bit, and he's going to pitch a new project for the Patreon as well. So I'll meet you back here to close out the episode after we hear from Toby.
Hey guys, it's Toby. I am safely hiding from Josh while I'm sick, and our schedules this week didn't line up very nice, so hey, he let me talk for a little bit, and here we go. So realistically, this is the part where I would make up some random thing for the week and be like, hey, Josh, what about this insane thing bouncing about in my brain? So this week's crazy thing is, since Easter just happened, did anyone ever question why the Easter Bunny lays eggs? Because obviously rabbits are not an egg-laying animal. I looked into why the Easter Bunny lays eggs, just because I thought it was insane that we teach kids, aside from the actual religious part of the holiday, which we don't need to get into, it seems wacky that we're like, hey, the Easter Bunny came and brought you candy and laid plastic eggs that are filled with money or toys or snacks or whatever else. So it seems like, I guess just because eggs are a very new lifey, rebirthy symbol, at some point in Germany, years and years and years ago, they decided that the bunny bringing gifts, or at least the whole concept of Easter treats, I guess we'll call it, started back then as just like a nice little party vibe, spring festival kind of thing of, hey, new life, rebirth, spring's here, everyone go out, get horny, make some new stuff going on kind of deal. And obviously for everyone else, you know, just get some nice snacks, some delicious Cadbury cream eggs, whatever you got to do. So that was my genius thoughts for that for this week. It's definitely a little weird just talking about it and not just having Josh bug me, but hey, here we are. Next point of business is I'm supposed to be doing a mini review of the episode. I'm trying not to cough, get sick, whatever, while I'm doing this, so hopefully everyone can bear with me. This week's episode, the mission was Save the Cat, and rather than focus on the mission itself, I was navigated by my dear friend Navigator to the point or the fact that Save the Cat is actually a screenwriting book. So it's a screenwriting book called Save the Cat, the last book you'll ever need on screenwriting or something along those lines. It is a book by Blake Snyder. He wrote it back in 2005. I think I saw he passed away in 2009, so it's kind of like his swan song kind of thing. But basically, it's a very solid template or blueprint for how you're supposed to write storylines or giant overarching stories or things along those natures. Just to go through what the categories are, or at least what the concept of it is. So I think there's 15 steps to a Blake Snyder story for saving cats. We're just going to go through each one with a little note. We start with the opening image. It is the first visual of any movie. Should give an impression of the tone, mood, type, and scope. Next is the theme stated, which is the secondary character states the theme of the movie, usually offhanded. I guess that's more so like if Robin's with Batman, Robin makes some comment like, hey, Gotham's in trouble, let's go do some shit, and off they go. The setup is the first 10 pages of the script. All shows the hero's world before the change that the story will bring. All major characters in the A story introduced or hinted at. The setup should present the 6 things that need fixing, the things that are missing or need to be changed in the hero's life, from character flaws to basic needs to wishes. The 6 is a arbitrary number according to Mr. Snyder, so yeah, it's just trying to make a checklist of sorts of all the things that need to be done throughout the show or series, movie, whatever. Next is the catalyst, which is obviously a life-changing moment that presents the journey to the hero and makes it impossible for the hero to continue their stasis. This is also the inciting incident or the call to adventure and other medias. The debate is when the hero debates what to do about the catalyst and sometimes refuses the challenge, only to accept it later. So I guess to override it with Zeztz, that would be a lot of the code fighting right now. That's about chapter 5 or 6 throughout the 15-step plan here. So us being 30-some episodes in does get us in that grand section of the story. At that point, the next section is break into 2, where the hero makes a choice to go on the adventure. This propels the second act, or at least is the antithesis of the first act. After that, you start the B story, which is the break from the main story and carries the theme of the media, but not specifically tied to the media. So I guess that's more like the Minami, however you say her name, arc, or like the Nox arc, or stuff like that. And at this point, you're supposed to keep breaking the story into the 2 pieces, the A story and the B story, just let everything go and carry from there. And next up is the fun and games, which is the first half of Act 2, provides the promise of the premise, the heart of the movie or film. It's not as concerned with the forward progress of the story. It's like just a lighter in tone part of the story. Next is the midpoint, where there's a false victory or false defeat, where the stakes are raised. Often the all is lost beat will inversely correspond to the midpoint. So if the midpoint is a false victory, the all is lost moment will be a false victory. Obviously, that's the big show reset in Zeztz. Next, bad guys close in. Obviously, the bad guys close in. All is lost is another obvious one where just all is lost. It seems like everything's going to shit. Afterwards is the dark night of the soul. This is that absolute darkness before the dawn, where the hero is wallowing in hopelessness before picking themselves up. Up next after that is break into 3, where the A and B stories start intertwining back together, and then start getting the hero back to, or the story back to like a synthesis level, where everything lines back up and gets us towards the end. The finale and the final image are the last 2 parts here. So the finale is obviously the hero applies the lessons they learned, the world turns over, new world created, and the bad guys are dealt with. And then the final image is an image that opens the final image, my tongue tied. The final image mirrors the opening image, shows the overall change that has occurred. So obviously, if we're doing Zeztz stuff, the finale, final image, once the story is retwined, should probably be something where like Baku tells someone else wake up Rider, or he wakes up Rider and does his own thing. And it's going to be a nice little wrap up to the storyline. I kind of feel like it's also like ring theory, which is the theory that most, I guess it's not a theory, but it's like a way of writing stories where I feel like Back to the Future is its own mini rings. And then the whole original trilogy for Star Wars is one large ring. If you map out like plot points, but not specific people kind of deal. But yeah, so I found that about the book. Navigator told me it was a book about screenwriting. I thought it was hilarious that the episode was named Save the Cat. Turned into me Googling a lot of stuff and me trying to find information out. And here we are. Maybe everyone learned something today. This is like a shade email built into the episode. Overall, the episode, I feel like this is a decent week for Josh and I to not have been able to get together just through life stuff, like I said. The only really main things, at least in my mind, was it was kind of cool to see Nox. Nox is doing the Nox thing, but definitely seems like between him and the lady, although a lot of their stuff seems very against Code and Sieg, not against Baku himself, or Zeztz himself. I'm kind of getting winded because I'm sick, like I said, so sorry if I sound trailing off or whatever. But I think it's cool that Nox keeps going on his brand new hero's journey where him and Baku will probably be friends, or Nox will do the proper Nox things and be a nice guy Kamen Rider instead of what he was as an angry Code boy. I don't remember him ever being his henshin transformation thing, ever yapping about wolves, whatever. I know it's wolves. But his transformation this week mentioned the wolf stuff, which I thought was kind of interesting, unless I missed it over the past, but that's always possible. And then the main arc, or the main swerve, huge plot story of this week was Baku's dream was that his sister was a Kamen Rider, and he was just basically his sister but brother. They switched roles for the day. Nem played mom, which was funny. And basically the whole thing was Sieg made Minami a nightmare, or her, I think he made her a nightmare, is the way I'm supposed to take it. Or he turned the nightmare into her. So as the episode goes on, she starts turning into a cat, who was apparently the cat we were supposed to save, and not just the cat they talked about in the episode. And by the end, Baku accidentally murders his sister while Sieg laughs. And the big twist, swerve, whatever, is that Minami is not actually even his sister, which was crazy, just because of how much they pointed out throughout the season. Hey, we need each other. I don't want to be alone, blah, blah, blah. And they even had, I think it was Minami, but either her or Baku made some comment at some point like, you're the only person I have. I can't lose you again, which we talked about last week, where I wasn't sure if the parents were just out and about or just never around, but all but confirmed that they are orphans or adults who just don't have parents anymore, however that works. But I think having him murder his sister as like a mid-season double swerve is kind of crazy. And I'm sure she'll come back, or when we defeat the nightmare, she'll be okay, or it'll all be okay. I would almost guarantee it's all okay. For guesses of who she's supposed to be, I feel like there was some other wordings in it where Nox knows her or knows of her, and there's a story to tell. So that feels like she's going to be code number 8, which we guessed, or part of Project Somnia, where Baku needs a watcher or a keeper to keep him in line, which I think is cool. But yeah, overall, it was a really good episode. I think it was interesting that we murdered the sister, more than likely, which I'm sure will be fixed next week as they do. But if not, hey, that's a nice little anger arc to keep moving the season, series, whatever, forward. But yeah, that's my... What episode is this? 30? 29? 30? Something like that? That's my quick summary of things in the episode. Josh is way better at this. That's why I need him to guide me and not just let me ramble. The final thing I want to address or point out or talk about, which I know Josh is probably going to do as well, over on patreon.com/thecommentwriters, I decided that, or Josh and I decided, however you want to word it, where I asked him to start a new sub-series, I guess we'll call it. And it's basically the fact that Josh knows a shitload of this stuff, and I don't know any of this stuff really. Like, if you listen to any episodes of the show, Josh is the main boy, and I am just the side piece who hangs out and chirps up here and there and does my silly little thing. So what I'm going to do instead, since I don't know how to do long-form YouTube videos in an intelligent way, I'm going to start the Toby's Toku Gaming Club, the TTGC, which is one letter better or worse than the TTFC, if you want to do some sort of judgment on that. But basically what I'm going to shoot for or try to do or whatever is do like 30 plus minutes a week of a Toku themed video game or something that's Toku adjacent to video games or in video games, whatever. Because while I don't know Toku stuff, I'm pretty goddamn good at video games. Like, that is my one claim to fame. If you heard me talk about my adventures on retro achievements through the years, I'm like top 1.7% of that website over the past year and not stopping still. So my idea is just to play video games that are Toku related. So like there's Kamen Rider games, Power Rangers games, Godzilla games, Ultraman games, all the stuff. I know there's a lot of games that are categoried in the Toku verse, but maybe not directly like one. Like there's a game called King of the Monsters or War of the Monsters. There's two of them. It was a 2.5D Super Nintendo fighting game, or where you basically just do like the monster battle, the part that I always complain about in Sentai episodes. But you do that in a city you can destroy, and it's basically like a wrestling game. But I used to play the shit out of that when I was a kid. So like that type of game, where if there's some sort of like big kaiju mecha tie, it's legit. Transformation people makes it legit, that kind of stuff. And I decided that to start it, I'm going to do a game called Chroma Squad, which is a game I kickstarted before it came out. I think the Kickstarter was like 2013, 2014, 2015, somewhere in there. It was right in the peak beginning of when Josh and I were doing Overanalyzed and watching Power Ranger shows. But it's basically a turn-based FTL or Into the Breach style game or Final Fantasy Tactics, Fire Emblem kind of thing, where you are not the Power Rangers, but you are the Chroma Squad, which is effectively the Power Rangers. And it's kind of like Dev Game Story where you kind of have your own studio and make Toku films, if I remember right. I never played a ton of it back then. It seems like a prime game to start with now. So that falls under the Toku category in my mind, like I said. But again, I hope this works out well. I hope my video game skills gets to show off crazy games that maybe other people will never see. And again, that will be only on our Patreon, patreon.com/thecommentwriters. I'm going to do the first episodes free, like we do for any other new show. And then after the first 3 episodes, it will be part of the paid tier, just as a heads up. I think my goal is going to be them coming out on Fridays to go with our Tuesday and Thursday schedule of other videos. But I guess that's a game time decision. Thanks for listening to me ramble separately. I hope this doesn't sound too disjointed with all Josh's stuff. And I will see everyone next week when Josh and I talk for real. Lates.
All right, and I am back. There you have it. There's Toby's take on the episode and the announcement of the Toby Tokusatsu Gaming Club, the TTGC. So I'm actually really excited to watch these videos he's putting out myself too. So do check out those videos over on the Patreon. Toby's gonna do some gaming, gonna do some Toku gaming. I'm going to have some games I slip in that I want him to play. I think I'm going to make some requests behind the scenes, but I think he's picked out a pretty exciting first one, and we'll go from there. So yeah, one more addition to the Patreon family of offerings that you can find once again over on patreon.com/thecommentwriters. So I think that is going to wrap us up for this week. We did get a couple emails I did want to highlight. Adebayo, Shade, I see your emails. I am saving them for next week so Toby and I can read those together. It's always way more fun to go through emails together instead of separate. So we'll catch up on emails next week. If you want to send your email in to get read next week on the episode, send those over to cast@commonwritersucks.com. Once again, that is cast@commonwritersucks.com. So that is going to wrap us up for this week. Next week, we'll be back to a normal episode. Toby and Josh talking together at the same time. I'm really excited for it. It's been a while since I've talked to my friend. Now I'm pumped to get to do it again. We hope you join us for that, and we hope you hang out and chat and send emails and join the Patreon and all that fun stuff too. But in the meantime, we hope you have a great week, everybody. Peace.